We got a great show lined up for you today. Coming up on the second segment will be the founders of drchrono. That will be Michael Nusimow and Daniel Kivatinos. And they're going to tell the story about what inspired them to launch their business. drchrono is a medical record management company that is allowing doctors to function with all their billing and data entry right on the iPad or a mobile device. And they're on the cutting edge of technology, and they had an ambitious business model and plan, and they made it onto the Inc. 500 fastest growing companies in America. I think they're growing at some 1,800%. So we'll hear from them on the second segment, Michael Nusimow and Daniel Kivatinos. I always get inspired when I hear entrepreneurs living out their dreams. How often do we think about stepping out, taking the risk to start a new business, start a new company, to live a dream? And oftentimes we think about it a lot, but rarely do we act on it. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of faith and determination to step out and actually launch that business. There's risk involved, absolutely. But that's one thing that entrepreneurs are not afraid to take that risk, because what's more important to them is living the dream and seeing the solution put in place for the void in the business model that they're trying to that they're trying to fill in. So look forward to hearing the story of drchrono. By the way, if you haven't checked out the American Dreams show on Facebook, I encourage you to do so. We have some 205,000 followers out there. We launched Facebook, American Dreams, on Facebook about a year ago, and I'm really happy and honored that we've had so many people come in and follow us. It seems to be growing rapidly because we're not pitching anything to you except we're giving you a leadership attribute a day, something to think about as you go through life and interact with other people. How do you build on relationships? How do you take each other to the next level, whether it be a casual relationship, a business relationship, a friendship, a marriage, a father and a child interacting together. As we go through life, it's all about relationships, not about how much you're earning or what your net worth is. At the end of the day, I can tell you stories about people who have had all the money in the world and found no happiness, no fulfillment in that. Others are, well, let me have the experience and I'll tell you if I find fulfillment in it. But nevertheless, I feel that as you go through life, having solid relationships in which you are interacting with others to build and lift each other are the most fulfilling. Today's post we have no success in life can compensate for failure in the home. And it's paramount as we go through life that every one of us has a family, and as those family relationships are strong, and they're nurtured, and they're home is where love should be the strongest. So check us out on Facebook, and if you want to get a news feed, just log into your Facebook account and go to the American Dreams Show. That's Dreams with an S, and check us out and like the page, and you'll be on our news feed daily. Richard Branson. Richard, he always amazes me. Yeah, I have a LinkedIn account where I'm connected in with Richard, and there's often these articles that'll come up with he has an article a day on just about everything out there. I mean, what a true entrepreneur. Founder of Virgin Airlines. He's learned really the art of relationships, the art of leadership, the art of getting people to help him along the way as he's living out his dreams and fulfilling them. Well, he has 3 leadership principles that he focuses in on, and as an international entrepreneur, it's not easy across the borders and cultures to keep your business model sustained and growth. But Richard is an amazing man, and he's been able to do that and accomplish a lot. Well, in an interview with Forbes contributor Daniel Schwabel, Branson revealed 3 of the most important leadership principles in his educated opinion. The first principle that he focuses on is that of listening. Listen to your employees. Listen to the marketplace. Listening allows you to learn from mistakes and discover new ideas. And I think the art of listening can help to build a relationship and take it to new levels. Larry King is, I remember the quote that he gave. He said, "God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason." So, when we listen, we begin to learn. And as we go through life, listening from others will help us get a greater understanding of and perspective from the other person. The second principle that Branson focuses in on is that of learning. Just because you're a top dog doesn't mean there aren't many things to learn. I think learning is an ongoing process. We can learn something from everyone. People that are running businesses with multiple people understand that every one of us is unique. Every one of us has different gifts and strengths and weaknesses. And when we learn how to take advantage of a person's strength and set aside the weakness, we get more out of that person. There's something that we can learn from everybody. And as Branson said, he says, learn from those who've come before you in your field. Learn from those that you're over, the relationships have gone through life, and then learn from your family and friends. And I've always adopted a philosophy in life to say, the way I'm going to learn is I'm going to first mark my pathway. What do I want to accomplish in life? Where am I going with my pathway? Do I have a purpose? And what is my purpose for life? And as as I've gone through and I've looked at accomplishing goals and objectives for the pathways that I've set, I learn in the process. My wife and I remember when we first were married, we set for ourselves goals, and we said, well, what do you want out of life? And we thought about it, and we thought about, well, is that a question for 1 year or 3 year or 5 year, 10 year, 20? We said, well, let's just go to the end of life and say, if we were in our 80s and we didn't have a lot of years left, what is it that we would want to say was our greatest accomplishment? And my wife and I said, well, at that age, money is no longer important. After all, you're not taking it with you. So we concluded that it would be our children, our posterity, and grandchildren, and so we set a goal as a newly married couple that for us in life, our purpose-driven life would be to have a large family of 7 kids. And when we decided this, it was while I was an IRS agent making $17,000 a year. But that's another story. Nearly starved to death in the process, but through sacrifice and our will, we were able to accomplish our goals of 7 kids, and now we're at 7 grandkids. So, did we have our road bumps in the road along the way? Absolutely. Life is never easy, and there's always going to be those obstacles. But we learn from our mistakes. We learn from others' mistakes. We learn from those before us. And so, if you're not sure what you want to do in life, well, talk to the people who are older than you. They've been where you are before. They've had the experience, and maybe there's things that they can give you, tips and pointers along the way to say, well, ask someone 20 years older. If you were my age today looking at what I'm looking at, would you have any advice for me? What would you do if you were in my shoes? See what comes back there. So I like what Branson says about learning. And the third area that Richard Branson talks about leadership attributes on is that of laughing. Branson says, my number one rule in business and in life is to enjoy what you do. How true is that? Making sure that when you get up in the morning and you go to work, that you enjoy doing what you're doing, the people that you're with, the environment that you're in, what you're accomplishing. If you don't enjoy your business, it will most likely fail. Or if you don't enjoy it, change what you're doing. Adjust. Choose the paths, personal and professional, that make you smile, that make you laugh, and that help you to light up. I think this is all great advice from Richard Branson, and we're talking, we're listening to a person who has, walked the walk that he's telling us. He has the experience of being a very successful entrepreneur, and good advice. So it's all about listening, learning, and laughing. I'm here today with Michael Nusimow and Daniel Kivatinos, who are the co-founders of drchrono. And welcome to today's show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Thanks for having us.
So let's go back. What is drchrono?
So drchrono is a really innovative technology company in healthcare that's based here in Mountain View in Silicon Valley. Our primary product is an iPad electronic health record that we launched right when the iPad first came out in April 2010. And it allows a doctor to use their iPad to do everything they need to do when they're at the point of care with a patient. So when they're in the exam room with a patient, they don't need a computer or a laptop. They don't need any paper medical records or their prescription pad. They can view all of the patient's information on the iPad, their complete medical history, and they can document their medical encounter. That creates the medical and legal record. And they can even do all their medical billing, which runs the financial side of their practice. And there's a lot of other workflows that are all supported on the iPad, such as sending electronic prescriptions directly to any pharmacy in the U.S. right from their iPad. They can also do lab ordering through Quest and LabCorp and other third-party labs, so they don't have to give you a sheet anymore. They can send the lab order directly to the lab. So when you get there or they take a specimen, they could just do all the ordering there, and they'll get your lab results. So really everything is just designed to replace all the kind of awkward paper workflows that doctors used to use. And I think it's a much better workflow on the iPad because they're not using a computer. And one encounter I had that really inspired me to start drchrono was I was helping to care for my father in New York City at the time, and I took him to a doctor visit, and I just noticed there were doctor visits where, doctors would have a thick stack of manila folders with crayon full of paper, and they only have 20 minutes. They're kind of paging through it, figuring out what's going on. And, my father at the time, like a lot of seniors, was taking over 20 prescription drugs. That's a lot of drugs to kind of look at on paper. And the doctors just seem a little bit hapless. They're really overwhelmed by the paper and how much time it takes to go through all that data. And in another encounter, we went to Cornell Medical Center, really great medical center, one of the best medical facilities you could go to in the world. And the doctor was using a big box EMR, like a more hospital-focused system. And the doctor spent 20 minutes with his back facing me and my father in the exam room, just hacking away on this computer terminal. The computer was built into the wall. And I could see him interacting with the software, and he was kind of throwing care over his shoulder. And my father, was like, I can't believe we waited 3 months for this visit. The doctor never even looked us in the eye. He didn't ask me how I was doing. He was just kind of moving the case along with his computer. And I saw what the software looked like, and it looked like really old. This was around 2008. It looked like just really old software, even for 2008. It looked like old kind of, Windows 2000 era software that was just like 10 or 15 years old with, like the old Windows system dialogues and 100 text entries and 100, displays there. And it just didn't look very workflow oriented. It really distracted the doctor. So that's what we really focused on doing with the iPad is, it's very natural. The doctor could hold the iPad, keep eye contact with their patient. There's not a lot of typing. So it's an input device that, is not super engrossing. We use a lot of touch inputs and speech to text technology. And we give all that away for free. So we give that tool completely for free to doctors. They could download it from the iTunes App Store and start using it for free. And we're certified for the government's Meaningful Use program, which actually earns doctors who use our free software tens of thousands of dollars in government incentives. And we monetize by taking over the doctor's medical billing and practice management. We give them software to do it, and we also sell them separate services to help them do all of that for them. And that's how we monetize, which is something doctors are already paying several hundred to several $1,000s a month for. So we're giving them this really cool mobile-focused EHR for free and taking over their existing kind of boring back office work, taking it off their hands and monetizing by doing that more efficiently.
I understand both of you were college roommates.
We were.
And did this business, Dr. Kronos, start while you were in school still then, or had you graduated?
No, so we both went to SUNY at Stony Brook on Long Island. I studied computer engineering, computer science, and I was in a lot of classes with Dan. We're roommates for part of our time there. And we each went our separate ways after school. I went to go work at Bloomberg LP in New York City. I was a software developer there for over 7 years, and I learned a lot about building software there and great customer service and how a really successful large company works. It was very inspirational. And Dan went to go work at a bunch of different startups. So we reconnected, I guess, about 7 or 8 years after college to start drchrono.
And then what brought you from New York City out to Silicon Valley?
Sure. So when we started the company in 2009, we started building the company in New York City. And we were in a startup community, but we were looking for the right investors while we were building the company. So we built the company, got several paying users, got featured by Apple.com, and a really interesting investor. We started having a dialogue with a really interesting investor, Y Combinator. So Y Combinator is really well known in Silicon Valley, and we flew out here. We had a meeting with the Y Combinator partners. And they wanted to invest. So we moved out here with the intention of going back to New York City after being here for 3 months. So the Y Combinator has a program that's a 3-month program. They invest in your company, you stay for 3 months, and then it's up to you what you want to do, whether it be move back to wherever you're from or stay in Silicon Valley. For us, when we came here, we realized there was a really good talent pool of developers, brilliant people, and investors all around the area. And essentially what that did is we saw value in that. It was very much a plug-and-play kind of environment where you can start your company, have a lot of support, and there's a lot of support infrastructure. And we stayed. We decided it was more beneficial for us to stay here.
I'm visiting here today with Michael Nusimow and Daniel Kivatinos, and they're the founders of drchrono. It's a practice management system that doctors use on their iPad. We've been talking about how drchrono came about. It's a medical practice piece of software that doctors can manage on the iPad. But let me move into why should a doctor think it's so great to put their medical practice on an iPad? How does that benefit everyone?
I would say initially the government has passed something called the High Tech Act that was part of a really large healthcare reform package, and they set aside $27 billion in 2008, 2009 to actually pay out incentives for doctors to adopt DHR technology. And there's also penalties that are starting as early as next year if they don't adopt the technology. So to the individual doctor, they're really feeling a pressure to adopt the technology because of these government programs. There's the opportunity to get huge incentives now, and they also, if they don't see the light, they'll kind of feel the heat from these penalties that are looming in the future. There are practical benefits to why the government is asking for EHR technology. I saw from my own personal encounters as a patient and caring for family members that the majority of healthcare workflows happening on paper are very inefficient and just very troubling. It's very troubling to go in as a patient and have your doctor not know what's going on with you, or just take a long time to kind of get a grasp of what's going on. So there's huge efficiency gains to be had. And that's one reason the government's pushing for EHR adoption.
So Michael, I'm a doctor. My ears perked up. $28 billion of incentives.
Yes.
Is that designed for allowing me to transition to electronic?
So an interesting thing, the initial grant for doctors who bill Medicare was $44,000 paid out over 4 years, and for Medicaid, it's over $63,000 paid out over several years. And the reason the government chose that amount is because that's how much they estimated back in 2007, 2008 that an EHR system would cost. If they go to a big company that usually sells systems to hospitals, they would sell a system to doctors that cost about $40,000 to $60,000, and there's costs for adoption and training. So we give our EHR product away for free. In fact, doctors can download it right on their iPhone or their iPad from the iTunes App Store for free and sign up in under a minute and start using the system. So I think the government at the time didn't count on innovative entrepreneurs coming out offering a free product that would meet these needs, and kind of the existing vendors in this space who've been around for 10 to 20 years. Some of the really big box vendors, they primarily sold to hospitals. They didn't really like selling to small practice doctors. They weren't geared to it, but the systems were quite expensive. So I think that's something that we really offer doctors, and I'm really proud of, is that we just give them something that they would normally have spent $40,000 to $50,000 on. They get it for free right on their iPad, and they can get that incentive money and just pocket it and essentially reinvest it in other parts of their practice.
Free is a good thing, and I imagine it helps make an easy sale there. How big are you right now?
So we have 33 people here in Mountain View and another 50 people who are outside contractors and consultants who work remotely, and they do a lot of support and medical billing for the doctors as kind of outsourced contractors.
Now, you made the Inc. 500 fastest growing company list, and that was issued in 2014. So where do you anticipate you'll be within a 3 to 5 year window?
That's a really great question. We're really proud to make the Inc. 500 list. I really would like to thank all of our customers out there because, we have a upsell product. We don't just give our product away for free. So I'm really grateful for all of the doctors who buy our paid services to take over their medical billing, because that's what allowed us to grow our revenue so quickly. And I would say our goal is to really keep growing as fast as possible, kind of true north for us. What I always consider, because me and Dan are both software developers, we really care about the product. So there's a lot of technology things we focus on, just making the product better, adopting new technologies and making them relevant for doctors to start using day to day in their practices. And true north is really to keep investing in product, really keep growing our revenue. If we made the Inc. 500 list again next year, we'll be doing amazingly well. If we could keep up, 1,800% growth, every 3 years, we'll be doing phenomenal if we can maintain that. And also just personally, I really care about improving our customer service as well. We're a real tech-focused company, but I think unlike a lot of other Silicon Valley tech-focused companies in the healthcare space, service is incredibly important. Doctors and healthcare providers really need a lot of support and training. A lot of them are coming from environments where they were just using paper and didn't even have a computer in the office, and we're introducing really cutting-edge technology to them. So we have to give them a lot of training and support to get up to speed. And also, I think to be successful in our industry, we just have to raise the bar on supporting our customers and training them better. And I think it's something we've improved amazingly on in the last year, and it kind of shows in our revenue numbers. Doctors sign up with us month to month. So it's great to have amazing technology and grab their attention and get them to sign up. But then we kind of have to fulfill that contract by giving them really good support and training to keep them paying us every month. Because if we don't, they'll stop paying us after a few months, and we won't be able to keep growing our revenues in a sustainable way.
I'm visiting here today with Michael Nusimow and Daniel Kivatinos. They're the co-founders of drchrono, and it's medical practice software that the profession now doctors can put on their iPad. We've been talking about how the company has been putting the doctors being allowed to put his whole medical practice billing and patient records on an iPad, which when you started this was really cutting edge. How do you stay ahead of the curve here to keep putting more and more things on the cutting edge? I'm going to just throw out a question of Apple talks about a watch coming out, or this wireless, basically saying we're going to eliminate the computers altogether. Are you for that in the company? Do you see a vision of that moving down the road, or how do you stay on the cutting edge?
Sure. I could take this question. So I would say that technology moves at a really rapid pace. In the last 100 years, you went from no computers, basically, effectively nothing out there, to what we have today. And every single year, leaps and bounds of progress are made, whether it be the iPad, whether it be the computer, whether it be a tablet or an iPhone. One thing that just came out was Apple had produced something called Health, and it's an app on your phone. And what this does is this connects all these Internet of Things, all these devices around you, blood pressure cuffs, glucose meters, software, interesting software, Fitbits, all these things, they're pulling it into this one way that you could take that data and do interesting things with it. And I see the Internet of Things becoming the next wave of interesting interactions for us as human beings, right? You could even have whatever it might be, a sleep apnea device, and you can pull that into your iPhone now. And this is sort of unheard of before, right? So you as an individual, your health becomes more accountable. You become more accountable for your health. So this is sort of one of the new waves that's happening. And it's hard to predict exactly what these waves are going to be, but they keep happening a year after year. And we see what's happening and we sort of say, this is the future. So I personally believe, and Michael believes, that the Internet of Things, all of these things coming together, taking that data, giving it to the individual to share with their physicians, it's definitely something that's happening right before your eyes. And the Apple Watch has a pulse, right? So you literally will wear an Apple Watch and you'll get a pulse rate on that, which you have on your iPhone, and you can share that with your doctor. You've never had that before.
And it just seems that the wearables are the next best thing. Jawbone did their Up 24, Apple with the iWatch, and now they're talking about companies coming out and putting the computer right into the textiles that you wear. So as you're developing this and keeping the medical practice, the medical industry, fluid with the movement of the rest of technology, what are some of the difficulties that you're encountering as you're trying to, use the cross platforms between the iPad back in 2010 to Google Glass today? Is that easy to stay up with?
I'd say it's really hard to build on these cutting edge platforms, but it's also really valuable. And being a tech-focused company, that's one of our greatest advantages over other healthcare companies trying to sell software to doctors, is that we're always building really early on the next cutting-edge wave of technology. So we launched our iPad EHR in April of 2010 and got featured by Apple really early because nobody else was building on the platform in the healthcare space at that time. And I feel like now, over 4 years later in 2014, a lot of the large vendors are finally starting to move to the iPad as a platform, but we have a huge advantage because we have a very mature product that's been battle tested and field tested and used by doctors for the last 4.5 years, and we keep improving it every month. So we just have a 4-year head start, and even if a company has billions of dollars in reserves, they're not going to be able to make up for that 4 years of time by throwing a lot of resources at it, and catch up in a very short period of time. And so I think that's a huge advantage of us, but it's very hard to build on these early platforms. You face just technical challenges because people haven't done it before in healthcare, and you have to make sure the security and compliance is up to date, and even doubt and kind of fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the market, where I remember when the iPad first came out, there was huge traction among doctors. 10% of the pre-orders, there were 300,000 iPads ordered before they came out in April 2010, and 10% of those pre-orders were to doctors. So there were, in the US, there were 30,000 US physicians who had an iPad on the first day of launch. You could download their app and start using it. So that was a really great early market to have, but they still kind of viewed it, they were a bit skeptical. They're like, can I use this in my practice to treat patients, or is it kind of a toy? Is it just kind of like a cool thing to play around with, or is it a real powerful business tool? And I think now nobody questions the iPad is ubiquitous. It's replacing laptops. Everyone has one. People use it at work. People use it everywhere. But at the time, there was kind of this doubt. Is it kind of just the next fun kind of iPod device, or is it a really powerful tool you can actually use, to treat patients, use it in business?
So when you're dealing with the healthcare professionals, I would view, and this is just me, that they would not necessarily be early adopters. How difficult is it to take the technology to them and to encourage them to adopt that within their organization?
I would say I think physicians are really great early adopters of tech. They're affluent. They have money. They're always buying the latest gadgets, like every new iPhone and iPad and, the Apple Watch. I think, every physician in the U.S. is going to buy a gold Apple Watch, right, when they first come out. So I'm really excited about that platform. But I think when you're dealing with a healthcare organization and the healthcare industry, it's not just the physicians. There's also their staff members and nurses and lots of other people who, and the healthcare system, one way I like to think of it is like an iceberg. When you're being seen by a physician, that's the 10% of the iceberg above the water that you see. And the other 90% of healthcare dollars and effort and what people are doing in healthcare is once you leave, all the paperwork, all the filing, all the medical billing, all the accounting, all the lab work. So that 90% of the iceberg is, I think, where the biggest obstacles to adopting newer technology is. So the doctors, I think, are really big advocates. Over 90% of U.S. physicians own an iOS device, an iPhone or an iPad. So they're definitely early tech adopters. They're with it. They want to use newer tech. And it's just that other 90% that's kind of hidden below the waters, all the medical billing. There are these huge billion-dollar companies you've never heard of who just operate on just processing your medical billing claims and moving them around the insurance companies. And that's where I think the part of the healthcare system we're kind of dragging forward when we're trying to adopt new technology.
So if a person wants more information on Dr. Chrono, where would they go?
So they could go to our website, drchrono.com, drchrono.com, or they could just search for EHR, which is short for electronic health records, in the iTunes App Store. And we're the first result there, or search for Dr. Chrono in the App Store and download our apps.
I've been visiting today with Michael Nusimow and Daniel Kivatinos. They are the co-founders of Dr. Chrono. Thank you for being on today's show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Visit Alan's website at growco.com, growco.com, and stick around for more American Dreams when Money 2.0 continues on AM 1220 KDOW.